Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Pabs, a racing VTuber and an artist, and today we are observing the void. I'm just fooling. I still had. I didn't turn off the filter that I put on Clip Studio Paint last time I was working on something, which was 2 weeks ago now. I think last Sunday I actually took off. Let's see. Oh yeah, Kat, that's perfect. How you been? I think it's. It feels like it's been a while since we talked. How are you doing? How have you been? Yeah, today we're going to be working on an idea I had for a comic. If you've never heard of Lancer before, Lancer is a tabletop RPG that is about mechs. Been good? How have you been? I've been doing all right, honestly. Uh, you know, not not every day can be easy, but most of them have been good. I think between good and bad, I've mostly had good days. I think that's where I'm at right now. Also, I did forget. Okay, so in Clip Studio Paint, you can actually select whether the rectangles and shapes you make spiral out from the middle of your cursor. So if I have my cursor here, for example, right, and I want to make a shape, I currently have it on the setting that spreads it out from the middle of that to the edge. I needed to be doing something that's not that. But yeah, what have you been up to? Anything you're excited to share? Anything that you've been kind of working on? Sometimes I lose my own cursor when I'm trying to make a shape. You know what? Fuck it. We're using the G pen for the whole sketch. Okay, so the main idea for this, I had this actually sketched out. Okay, so I'm gonna need a little bit of space down here at the bottom. It says that I somehow have something. Hang on. I need to clear out this top part. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna need a little bit of space at the bottom here. I think after that, I'm good to just do this. Not really, I guess something I did was get achievement on a few games. Nice! What have you been playing? God, a little while back, I got really into Fields of Mystria for like a couple of weeks, and then I realized that in those couple of weeks, every spare hour that I didn't spend sleeping or eating or anything was spent playing Fields of Mystria, and I was like, okay, let's seal this for the time being. I don't know. I feel like when I enjoy something, it always becomes to some kind of cognito hazardous extent. I will drop everything to complete it and derive satisfaction from it, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm good. I'm good for a little while. Like I'll come to recognize that it's interfering with my daily life, and I'll be like, okay, that's enough of that for a minute. Played Fallen Order to 100%, and I've been enjoying White Knuckle. I've heard Fallen Order is a Star Wars game, right? I feel like I've heard of White Knuckle. Is that the one where you climb some kind of concrete tunnel? I feel like I've heard of White Knuckle before. I should start by making the speech bubbles. So good. I do feel like I don't know. I feel like I learned about White Knuckle and that game Peak around roughly the same time. So I always feel like for a minute there we all just got really into simulated rock climbing, which isn't bad, but it is strange that it happened all at once. I enjoyed Peak quite a lot. I really enjoyed climbing solo. Like I had a lot of fun climbing with my friend Leo, but I also just really enjoyed the single player experience of it. Okay. Gonna need another one around here, I think. Maybe a smaller one over here. You should try white knuckles sometimes. It's really tough. I feel like I could enjoy that. I feel like there's something very meditative about climbing. Or at least simulated climbing. I think if I tried actual climbing, I would like. I'm not built for that. I'm a big enough man to recognize that that some people can climb and you can learn to climb, and I'm just not. That's just not where I'm at right now with my life. The one I use is called Pacific Regular. Maybe a little bit smaller. What font size am I using? But yeah, is White Knuckles' whole thing to get to the top of something? To just, like, get to the top of the structure? I don't know. I feel like I'm easily fascinated by... How do I put this? Like, not exactly enrichment rich, but, like... things that have, like, a lot of variety and texture in them. Like, I remember back in the day, right? Do you remember that game Only Up? That one that was... Hang on. Do you remember a little while ago, there was a really popular game for streamers to play because it caused them to crash out. It's a good way to say it. It's Evil Peak. You gotta climb it fast, and it's trial and error based. That sounds scary. Evil Peak is fascinating conceptually to me. But yeah, there was this game called Only Up, and God, Evil Peak is really scary as a phrase. Evil Peak sounds like something that, some way that like a Zoomer would call Berserk. Yeah, you gotta tap into the Berserk. It's Evil Peak. God. Oh god, I do feel like it's probably also a little bit like those levels in video games where like the bottom of the level is slowly scrolling up, so if you fall off the ledge or if you take too long to climb, it'll kill you. I feel like it's probably also like that then. But yeah, I never played Only Up. I watched a couple of people play through it at a time, I think. But the reason that I liked Only Up wasn't because of any kind of design. Well, no, I guess it is actually like the design philosophy. Not the gameplay design philosophy, but like the textures that it introduced. Like this highly, like, this very dense, eclectic mixture of random objects was so fascinating to me for some reason. I really liked how it just brought a lot of different random crap together. Yeah. I don't think this ever produced anything else. I don't know. There's a Wikipedia article for that. Let's peep this for a second. 2023 platformer developed by SCKR Games. Players control the character Jackie and must reach the moon through a series of obstacles consisting of real-life items. Praised for its difficulty, but criticized for its graphics and level design. Okay. Only Up became one of the most popular games on Twitch shortly after its release and was nominated for the first VTuber award. Ain't no way. VTubers Awards got a Wikipedia page. Okay. Organized by OTK-owned talent management company Mythic. Oh, I know those guys. Okay. Users are given an option to submit nominations, and afterwards they are given an option to choose one of the nominees in each category. Okay. Future. In August 2025, WePlay Studios announced that they would no longer work on the VTuber Awards. Okay. Funny. All right. We had VTuber Awards for 2 years, and then they canceled the shit out of it. Oh. Only Up was removed from Steam after numerous assets were found to be copyright violations. Okay. Okay. That's not too bad. On September 7, 2023, they removed Only Up from Steam permanently, citing stress. Damn, okay. Oh no, they try to sell. Oh no. Okay. Wait, as Truth Labs had released Goblin Town under a Creative Commons Zero license which allows for commercial use, it is unknown whether SCKR Games had partnered with Truth Labs. Have you ever played Chained Together? I have not. It seemed like a miserable experience. Like, I'm sure that if you were, like, in the same room or, you know, you're friends with whoever you're working with, it could be fun to some extent, but I don't know. Have you played it? Was it fun for you? Hang on. Most critics felt that the graphics were poorly constructed, felt that the obstacles and overall design were not polished. That's fine, though. Only Up Fortnite is a custom Fortnite map created by a user known as Army. Okay. Well, it's kind of sad that they ended up deciding to pull it. You know, I understand why. Like, I know how vicious shit can get, but like, I don't know. It's kind of sad. Hang on. It was so hard with my friend. We eventually beat it, but oh my god, they grief so much. Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's like funniest. I do feel like it is a capital S streamer game because I do feel like the half of the fun comes from kind of dicking each other around a little bit. It's, you know, griefing as the vernacular is. I need to make this default setting for it to center the text. It also just seemed to. I feel like Chained Together was also. What's this comic about? Oh, it's gonna be a funny thing. So let me actually show you some pictures. So there is this tabletop RPG called Lancer, which I enjoy a lot. I've only played one game of it, to be fair, but I love the world building, the lore, the kind of the world building that it has. And so, yeah, the main thrust of Lancer is that you are a mech pilot in a kind of post-scarcity utopia, and you are on a variety of missions. You can decide what those missions are, who you're fighting for, etc. But typically, it does involve you fighting other mech pilots. Hang on, who is this? Guttural cis beautiful. All right. Hang on. Ban at that guy. Spam orbital cannon punishment. There we go. Anyway, in Lancer, you pilot these things, and in particular, there is a frame in Lancer called a Lancaster, which is this kind of dog horse looking thing, which is cute. I like the Lancaster's design a lot. It's very nice to see a quadruped mech in a predominantly bipedal mech world. But I also thought it'd be really funny if, like, do you know how red pandas can stand on their hind legs to threaten people? I thought it'd be really funny if the Lancaster could do that. So that's the idea that this came from. I'm gonna need to rearrange the text here a little bit. Okay. I think the dialogue is more or less done. I can probably hide... let's make it low opacity and just work on the sketch after this. But yeah, I really like Lancer, its world building, the kind of... Yeah, the energy it has really is just really fun. Almost everything has like a little bit of flavor text, which I love. What else is there to love about Lancer? What kind of games do you play nowadays? I honestly don't game that much, to be honest. I have actually I have been trying to replay a couple of games that I played as a teenager. One of them was a shopkeeping game called Recettear. And the other one was Fallout New Vegas, because I just wanted to see if punching stuff in that game felt as good as I remember. And it does, but sadly the magic just isn't there for me anymore. I think I've come to enjoy games that are like very short and I can beat in like a session or two, just because I feel like it's better for my time management nowadays. I love Fallout New Vegas. It's so good. Like I cannot imagine being somebody who hasn't played Fallout New Vegas in this day and age, just because it was such a formative experience for me. It's like when you meet somebody and like you hear that, oh, they've never heard of what anime is before, or like they've never like it's like when I don't know how to put it. It was such a formative experience for me, and it always surprises me when I hear that somebody hasn't played Fallout New Vegas, just because of how really just how good it is. I don't know. I don't know if elitist is the right phrase for that. It just does. Whenever somebody says like, "Oh yeah, I've never played Fallout New Vegas," I feel like I turn into that Malcolm in the Middle bit where like it zooms in on the picture of on the dad, like, and it suddenly like shuts out the light, like it's like something serious is happening. I like how fun it is to get all the achievements in it. Yeah. I'm glad that I eventually stopped being... I do think it's fun when games have fun achievements. I will say I took that shit a lot more seriously when I was a teenager. Like, when I was a teenager, I guess it's also because I also just couldn't get games quite as often. Like, now, if I want to just drop, like, 20 bucks on a video game, that's not something I should be doing regularly, but I can if I want to. So really, the main thing about a video game is, will I derive personal enjoyment from it for the limited time it is a novelty to me? Which is a really bleak way of looking at it, but it's the best description that I can give. But when I was a teenager, I used to genuinely get stressed realizing that I couldn't get all of the achievements sometimes, even if I worked really hard. Like, I was just not, there comes a time when you, in like your gamer career, I guess would be the best term, that you realize that you're not going to be that guy. You're not always going to be that guy. You're pretty good at video games, as good as like you can be in such a broad field of... with such variety of interactivity, right? You can be like quote unquote good at video games, but at the same time, you're not gonna... You eventually hit an upper limit, and you're like, okay, I played this game, but I'm not good enough to get all of the achievements for it. I think the first time this happened with me was actually with the Supergiant Studios game Bastion, which was one of the first games I ever owned on Steam. And I was like, okay, I am like 13 years old, and I cannot for the fucking life of me get past all of the extra challenges in this game. And to be fair, the game has some pretty fucked up extra challenges. Like, this is not merely a skill issue. Like, this is just genuinely, these are hard as hell, and it is not expected that everybody will be able to get them. And I was like really stressed about it for some reason. I don't know why, but I felt very distressed that I was just never going to be able to get all the achievements in this game that I really liked. But eventually, somehow, for whatever reason, that feeling just went away eventually. I don't know why, but it did. It's so satisfying to get 100% Steam achievements. I got like 19 games to 100%. Which one was your favorite to 100%? Like I said, I've realized for a long time now that I'm not the, 100% is not a lucrative career for me. But I feel like if you've gotten like 19 of them, I feel like there must have been a few of them where you're like, yeah, you know what, this was like a genuinely pleasant little jaunt for me. Hmm. I'd say White Knuckle. It's so fun. I'm still addicted to it as they're adding a big update soon. Hey, that's huge for you. God. I've never played Look Outside. Look Outside is like a horror RPG maker game. That's an actual RPG, I should mention. I feel like when you say RPG maker game, you do have to put a little asterisk whether the game is actually an RPG or if it's like a survival horror. Sometimes it's a little bit of both. But yeah, it is an actual RPG. I've never played it myself, but I remember somebody complaining that they can never truly 100% the game because the moment they look away, the creator of the game has added like 10 new secret boss fights. I don't know if those count as big updates, though. I don't know how hard it is to add boss fights to a RPG Maker engine game. Okay, I gotta get these two knuckleheads into a separate folder and drag them over here. I actually, come to think of it, I did end up playing like one game that was one of those like roguelite ones. It was called Nubby's Number Factory. I beat it in a few different sittings. I remember I accidentally just got a really broken build by accident one time. And I think that's how I beat it. But yeah. I used to have every Terraria achievement, but they added more, and I'm stuck on the last two, which are so much work. Oof. I am shocked that Terraria is still an ongoing thing. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was like a Minecraft kid or something, but it always struck me as like mystical and esoteric as a video game. It was also really scary for no good reason. Like I remember I accidentally got to like one of the deeper levels in Terraria as like, a 13-year-old or something. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm like getting all this loot. I'm mining all this ore. And then it's like you hear a tremor and I'm like, what? What do you mean I hear a tremor? And then I fucking got eaten by a worm. To clarify, it wasn't like a normal sized worm. It was like a really big worm. But, you know, very sudden, very evil kind of violent end to that particular spawn. Eater of Worlds or the Mech Worm? I think it was the Eater of Worlds. Wait, let me Google this real quick. I think it gave me... Hang on. Eater of Worlds. Oh yeah, that was the one. It was the Eater of Worlds. There's a Mech Worm? What is Terraria actually about? What happens in that game? I've seen so much bullshit. so much bullshit in it that's like adjacent to... Terraria sounds like a fake video game that they... Like, you hear some bullshit about Terraria and it sounds like a fake video game that they make up for like an episode of CSI Miami where they need to cover like a gamer killing, right? Like, oh yeah, there's a minigun that has a shark attached to it, and it's more powerful than a normal minigun. Okay, what? And then it's like, oh yeah, but there's like this weird corruption that you can't stop, and you need to like shoot rainbows with in order to reverse. And again, it's like, what do you mean? What actually happens in this game? You have to work your way up the boss fights to get into the Moon Lord, a very tough boss. Is Terraria a Souls-like? The greatest thread in all of history, locked after 3,000 pages of intense debate by moderators. I feel like Terraria is technically a Souls-like. I don't... I guess it depends on your definition of a Souls-like. I do know that some people define Souls-like as in you need to have a dodge button and stamina, but I feel like that's kind of irrelevant. I do feel like the essence of a Souls-like is that you probably do have to work your way up a bunch of different tough as nail bosses until you get to fight the actual final boss. Wouldn't say so? That's fair as well. I have never played a Souls game in my life. All of what I'm saying is based purely on conjecture. So that's more than fair. I think I will defer to your judgment. I'd like to learn about RPG Maker construction at some point, I feel. I feel like that's the most realistic avenue for me to ever make a game in my lifetime, which I would like to do. You know what? I'm going to shear off the little dent here, and I'm going to add the little roll cage that the default one has. I've also been enjoying some visual novel games since those are nice too. Ooh, interesting. What have you been playing for that? I want to be a visual novel guy at some point. That's not going to happen anytime soon, but I would like it to be a kind of part of my life. Wait, how big is the Tokugawa? Hang on, compcon.app. Genuinely, I played the first episode of Umineko, and it was so fire that I wanted to get back into it. But I've heard you can't really like appreciate Umineko unless you play Higurashi first. And I also want to play Fate. It's really a little weird game called The Coffin of Andy and Laylee. I also played a little bit of Doki Doki Literature Club. Oh, nice. You know, I remember hearing about The Coffin of Andy and Laylee. For whatever reason, I always assumed it was like a Godo game or like a... I don't know how to put it. I didn't think it was I actually thought it was an RPG Maker game as well. I never thought it would be a visual novel. Huh. What was I doing? Right, I need to look up the Tokugawa. So the thing about Lancer as well is that each frame has a specific size. So hang on, how big are you? Size 1, okay. Huh. I wouldn't have expected that. For some reason I expected the Tokugawa to be size 2. It's a very messed up game, but it's kind of funny. That's charming. Size 2, there we go. Okay. Huh. So technically the Tokugawa would be smaller than the Lancaster. I don't know, I feel like most comedy games have to have like a little bit of messed upness in them in order to have some real bite. Like, technically Portal is a comedy game, but I feel like its messed upness... Well, actually, no. No. I'm retracting that statement. Portal 2 is a puzzle game with a very strong comedic element. So maybe the messed up part of Portal that makes it memorable is how difficult it is in some cases. Again, the thing is that I played a lot of very quote-unquote classic games when I was 12 or like 11. So I have a very poor read on their actual difficulty. Because it was like, yeah, that was tough for me when I was like 11 and I didn't have a fully developed frontal cortex. But I could probably low diff that right now. With my powerful multi-thread 26-year-old CPU. Also, I need to make this guy a little bit smaller and a little bit higher up. Lower down. Yeah, I think that's good. I like how it's a dark game, but I also like the story. It's been fun. Can't wait for the updates for it. Nice. Now, I do appreciate it. I feel like now that I feel like I've matured in a lot of ways, because I feel like when I first heard about visual novels as a concept, I was like, well, that's weird. Why wouldn't you just read it as a book or something? But, I feel like now that I've matured and I've come to appreciate the storytelling that is built into a visual novel, I feel like I'm much more attracted to the genre. Okay. And that's just gonna kind of come down over here. I will say though that that I'm not at the point quite yet where I'm like, narrative in games is everything. I do think that there are occasional games that you just need to like use to. What's been your favorite art you've done? That's a toughie. I feel like no, that's genuinely a very difficult question. I don't think I have a favorite piece of art I've done, because everything that I work on, I feel very excited for it until I finish it, and then I'm like, yeah, that was nice. I guess really, you know what? I think the favorite art that I do is the art that I make for others. Like a lot of the ones that I do for myself, I feel like I have difficulty appreciating them in their full scope, because they are exclusively for me. right? And I'm aware of like their imperfections. I'm the one who arbitrated their decisions, etc. Because I'm so much more involved in the decision making process for it. I feel like I am satisfied with what I create, but I can't say that it's my favorite. Conversely, when I make art for other people, they can gas it up a little bit. They can say, yeah, no, this looks really good. This is what I really like about it. This was thoughtful. This was something that I really enjoy about it. I get to see their reactions, and that is my favorite part of it. So yeah, I think the art that I do for commissions or that I make for others is my favorite art. Okay, here's what let's do. Gonna put this up here. Gonna twist this over like so. Nice, okay. And this is going to be like a fairly sketchy comic, by the way. I am not fully rendering these mechs, especially not in one sitting. I used to draw game characters and I got really good, but I got burned from drawing 24/7. I retired for a long time. I can understand that. Yeah. That's why I don't like doing like big projects as well, I feel. I feel like once in the heat of doing a big project, I feel like I love it because it like, I can devote my entire existence to it. But the moment that it's over, I feel like such a weird kind of void that it's very difficult to get back into drawing anything else. Like, it feels like I need to like almost do a little something to shake the rust off and get me out of the mindset of working on the project. But yeah. Does that mean that some of the favorite art you've drawn is for those game characters, or is it for a different thing that you've drawn? Or do you suppose the answer is a little bit, probably a little bit of both? That's something that I've been thinking about as well. I feel like I need to get back into drawing stuff that's a little bit more self-indulgent, but also a little bit more constructive. Like, instead of like focusing my entire existence on a big project, I just need to start making assets for it little by little, and then assembling those as I get the opportunity. Instead of being like, okay, I am officially in capital letters working on this thing. I don't know. I just feel like that would be more conducive to creating a long-term sustainable strategy. Hang on, I need to take another look at the Lancaster. How can this thing, like, would it be able to turn around? Not really, huh? That's tough. I used to draw like FNAF, Bendy, and I've drawn Star Wars characters, but my favorite is probably Allison and Angel. I've also been working on this awesome Inquisitor for like a few months now. Inquisitor. Is that from 40K? I feel like I've heard that term mostly in 40K. Or maybe it's a different Inquisitor. I don't know. There are actually a few different types of Inquisitor, aren't there? Star Wars Inquisitor, right? Okay, that's much more consistent with what you've said. Yeah, I've also forgotten that Star Wars also has Inquisition. I feel like Star Wars, just because of the fact that it is like a space samurai movie franchise which spawned everything, I feel like it does surprisingly have like a lot of medieval stuff as well in it. You know, like Inquisitor is very much a medieval kind of thing. Okay, so that's gonna put this log shape kind of over more towards over here. Okay, that's just gonna kind of go like this. Yeah, he's the 11th brother I'm drawing. My opinion is so, in my opinion, very cool looking. Nice! Now, I do think that one of the greatest joys of drawing and being able to create your own thing is the fact that you just know that you're cooking. Like sometimes it is very much a sort of trust the process kind of thing where you need to be like, oh god, this does not look good right now, but I just need to get to this stage and it'll start coming together. Trust. But other times it just kind of starts coming together immediately. You know what? I'm just gonna make the dog put the dog a little bit further away, and I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. I do also love that the Lancaster's graphic just does have this space trucker up on there. I don't know. I like when the little Lancer figurines have like their pilot with them. I feel like it tells you a lot about the kind of person who drives this particular robot. Okay, and then move this backwards. Nice. Actually, I'm going to put it a little bit lower to the ground and maybe a little bit farther away, too. Also, I'm going to try and make some of these a little bit bigger. I still need to finish coloring him, but I've kind of switched my art style from coloring to just doing outlines and just details with black lines to make it readable again. Oh, okay. I feel like I don't know if I have the courage to experiment with a lineless style. Or wait, maybe I'm misunderstanding the process based on your description. That is very possible. Okay, from coloring to just doing outlines and just details with black lines to make it readable. Huh. Oh, this feels kind of cramped. But I do like that the text is a little bit bigger. I do outlines and then color. Now I just do the outlines only. Ah, okay. Out of curiosity, do you also use Clip Studio Paint? Have you ever tried using gradient mapping? I found that it can help a lot when you're trying to use black and white and you just want to see a little bit of color in the drawing. No, just use pen up because I like drawing on my phone when I go to places. Ooh, that's really cool though. I always feel a little bit I always feel a little bit nerfed when I have to draw while I'm traveling because I don't really have any portable digital art software. I maybe I have maybe I technically have access to the mobile version of Clip Studio Paint or something. I do have an app called Metabank Paint, which I use sparingly because it's not really fun to navigate with. Now that I've been working with a pen tablet for a few years. I feel like I should figure that out. I feel like I would gain a lot of power levels if instead of playing Nintendo DS games on long plane rides, I could just draw something. Of course, that invites a whole other. I feel like no. The problem with airplanes and traveling for me is that one, I no longer have to travel to any place that like necessitates super dense in-flight entertainment options, which has really nerfed me in some ways. I used to be able to finish at least like a couple of DS games per trip. Now I'm lucky if I finish one. Also because I'm spending time cherishing my family or whatever. And also just because I get very easily self-conscious in travel settings. I don't know how to put it. I have like so much aura loss when I have to deal with traveling and like how I'm perceived by other people who are also traveling. I've gotten better at it over the years, but it never really leaves you. Okay, and that's gonna be like I don't know. I feel like I should make hang on. Let's try this. Let's not extend the legs, but let's instead make them a little bit more compressed or compress in a different way. Let's see. Okay, and then over here it would just be the Tokugawa. God, I love the stupid fucking popped collar aesthetic that the Tokugawa has. I'm thinking of drawing some Resident Evil because I'm trying to beat all of them because I'm new to it. I've been RE2 Remake, but I'm trying to go to 0 through 8 in order before I buy Requiem. That's fair. I do think that you could probably get away with doing them in like relative release order, like playing Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, and then Resident Evil 0, depending on when that was released. I feel like that's usually a better approach. But I also understand the desire to play them in like the chronological order. Actually, yeah, you know what? Disregard my advice because I also played Yakuza 0 before I played Yakuza, and you know nobody tells you play Yakuza 0 before you play Yakuza 1 before you play Yakuza 0 or whatever. No, nobody says, "Oh yeah, you have to play the rest of the Yakuza games to get Yakuza 0." It's a very self-contained story. Actually, I don't even know what happens in Resident Evil 0. So forget everything that I've just said. God, I actually had a lot of fun playing Jill's route in Resident Evil 1 last Halloween. I tried playing Chris's route first, and it whooped my ass hard. Like, that shit was so difficult for no goddamn reason, and I've had, like, a personal grudge against Chris Redfield ever since that day. It's not even his fault. Like, to be perfectly transparent, Chris Redfield is also the victim in this context. But fuck that guy. You know what? He can go punch boulders, but I don't know if he can punch boulders, but he can definitely go pound sand as far as I'm concerned. Bro, the old REs are so weird for camera angles and keybinds. You know what? It's not that weird if you buy the GOG port of it. The good old games game shop. If you buy that, you can genuinely just plug in any old controller that you have around the house and play it that way, and it feels very natural. That being said, I still got completely low diffed by the tank controls at every possible turn. Like things that some people could, there were some weaves and dodges that I saw people do in gameplay videos while I was trying to like train myself up to do Chris's route. That I was like, yeah, no, I'm never in a million years gonna be able to hit that. I do enjoy the camera angle though. I don't know. It's like I feel like older games, like older Resident Evils, are very much a case of I like the way that this sucks. If that makes any sense. Hang on. Maybe I can get away with a little something here. Yeah. I think I can do this. Now, what I really want to be able to do is to be able to play the old Silent Hill games with the traditional control schemes and everything, but I feel like that's something of a pipe dream. I don't know. Capcom is more than happy to take your money if you will let them. But I feel like whatever is going on with the people who own the IP rights to Silent Hill, whatever's going on with them is much more sinister. I was playing Resident Evil 3 Remake on call with a friend, and it's all fun in games until getting chased down by Nemesis. That was like scary for me. I do feel like Nemesis is definitely the scariest guy I've ever seen. Until I play Resident Evil 2 and meet Mr. X, and that guy's gonna be the scariest guy I've ever seen. I don't know. It was really whoa. What just happened? Yeah, no, I can't wait to play Resident Evil 3 in like 2 years and eventually run into Nemesis because I look forward to feeling that real visceral fear for myself. I don't know, sometimes you need to trick a few times a year. Doesn't have to be like a scheduled thing or something. Maybe it's just something that you do for yourself every once in a while. But you do need to make yourself experience genuine mortal fear. I think it's just good for your circulation. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. I love the Resident Evil 2 tyrant, but bro straight up just camped me so much. I'm just loving the idea of somebody talking about Mr. X like, Raph, do something, he's camping. Ay, ay, ay. The phrase ref do something in general is just comedy gold. Now I'm imagining the Mr. X or the Resident Evil 2 tyrant or whatever just doing like straight up like Counter-Strike 2007 like knife trick shit to run faster. I don't know. I'm not nostalgic for that era per se, but I do think I miss random bullshit movement tech rather than like whatever fast twitch reaction time merchantry that Fortnite or whatever modern game du jour is kind of peddling. I remember watching footage of like high-level Fortnite play styles where they were like building and shooting at the same time. I remember getting really scared. I'd walk out of a safe spot and just see him staring me down at the other side of the hallway. like he's got his arms crossed and he's just shaking his head slowly, like, not, no. Get back in there. Go. Evil ass dude. I'm actually gonna drink a little bit of tea. I still haven't really gotten the hang of cold brew tea just yet. I think. Yeah, hey Jupiter. Yeah, no, I've gotten really into just cold brewing whatever the hell I can get my little hands on. Right? I've been cold brewing tea, I've been cold brewing coffee. I bought cheesecloth, right? That's how deep in it I am. I am all in on this shit. No, but genuinely it is much better. I bought loose leaf jasmine and oolong tea a long time ago because I got myself a gongfu-cha tea set for Christmas. And I was like, yes, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to be able to like relax and meditate and like just brew tea and read a book to relax. And then I wasn't able to do any of that because this has been like one of the least relaxing starts to a year I've ever had. But I did figure out about like cold brew tea after reading a Wikipedia article about it. And I was like, this is it. This is how I can make sure that none of it goes to waste. Because that was my biggest concern, wasn't just the fact that I wasn't able to relax, but rather the fact that I would be wasting this perfectly pleasantly fermented, roasted, etc. jasmine tea. So this was huge for me. Okay. But yeah, no, I think my main obstacle now is just having the agency to also stop brewing the tea once it's done. Because the way that I did it the first couple of times, and this has worked really well, is that I left it over brewing for a period of 24 hours, and then I extracted the tea leaves, and then I just drank the tea. And I diluted it with quite a bit of water, and that worked pretty good. But this week I've been extremely busy, and I started leaving it to brew, I think, Wednesday evening, and I only managed to get it and get the leaves out yesterday. Yeah. That's also a really good. It's also a really good way to avoid that problem. Like I can just, I using cold brew methods. You actually do need to use more tea than you normally would using like a hot brewing method. So I can just use a fair number of the leaves each extraction, and yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah. I also found out that you can put tea leaves into a couple of different things. I tried to do like an infused jasmine tea butter one time, and that worked pretty well. But I also figured out that it was kind of a pain in the ass to do. So now I just find a way to dispose of the leaves properly. I don't know. There's a lot you could do with tea, surprisingly. There's lots of stuff that you can do with coffee. I briefly did consider doing like those facial scrubs that have coffee in them because I heard those were a thing, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds interesting. Maybe I should look that up. Try and see if I can do that with the cold brew coffee that I've been doing. And literally the first couple of YouTube video search results that I get were like, yeah, if you do this, you're going to fuck your face forever. Like just the microabrasions and everything with the coarse coffee grounds. It is just stick to normal hyaluronic acid or whatever. And I was like, sir, yes, sir. You don't got to tell me twice. Do you remember apricot scrubs? I do not. I wouldn't be surprised if they were a thing, though. I've never understood. I don't think I actually ever understood what an apricot actually was. I believe it's some manner of citrus, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But yeah, that something similar happened with apricot scrubs, where they like a huge fad for a couple of years, and then everybody remembered that like that's probably not great for your face. Turbo abrasive, I don't know if they've fallen off in popularity, if it's just not relevant to adults. It might be a little bit of both, honestly. I do feel like we've started kind of bypassing the typical kind of reason why everybody was so into doing like DIY scrubs, because now everybody was like, before this, it was very much a seller's market when it came to organic products. Like everybody wanted something to be like made with one or two ingredients, and for it to be like traceable down to like a single farm or whatever, right? That used to be huge as a marketing tactic. But now nobody gives a shit. Use the pit as an abrasive. Okay, that explains more. I thought you were using like the peel of the apricot or something, which would probably be fine if somewhat ineffective for any real purpose, but not like life threatening or anything. But the pit, that makes much more sense why it was dangerous. Like, yeah, just rub this rock on your face, bud. This will have zero negative impacts on your life and future. So you've never partaken in something apricot flavored? It's not that common of a flavor or anything for the record. I might have at some point, but I've never specifically looked for it. I've never really noticed it. I've never been like, ooh, apricot flavor. I've never had that before. I've never, yeah, that's not something that's happened to me. If it has, it's probably because it's like a byproduct. It was mixed in, and not because it was the flavor of the thing itself. I don't know. How would you rank it, Jupiter? I trust your instincts and outlook on most culinary matters. An apricot is like a peach, basically. Oh, okay. That makes it much less exciting. I would have figured it would have been some kind of bizarre pseudo citrus or whatever. I don't know. I expected more, but that sounds perfectly reasonable as a fruit. How far down does this go? Okay, all the way down, really. Okay. I don't know. I feel like there is no fruit that is genuinely that you hear it and it's like, oh wow, that sounds really mystical and interesting. Like even star fruit I hear is something of a neutral flavor at best. It's unimpressive as a fruit. And it's shaped like a star. Like how does that happen? Like I would have figured that I don't know what I would have expected a star fruit to taste like, but the fact that it just doesn't taste, I don't know. Hang on, Wikipedia, tell me what does a star fruit taste like actually? Maybe it's changed. Carambola, also known as star fruit. Oh, it has an actual name too. Fruit of Averroa carambola, a species of tree native to tropical Southeast Asia. Okay. Contain oxalic acid and the neurotoxin caramboxin. Consuming large quantities of the fruit, especially for individuals with some types of kidney disease, can result in seriously adverse health effects. Are you much for taro or ube flavored stuff? Unrelated. Have you had sunchokes before? I have never heard of a sunchoke before. Hang on. Sunchoke. Ooh. Also called the sunroot, sunchoke, wild sunflower, topinambur, or earth apples, a species of sunflower native to Central and North America. Root of a sun... Ooh. Okay. Okay, seeing this, I'm now getting the picture. I've never had that before. I've also never really had taro or ube flavored stuff. I think I've had ube flavored stuff for a little bit, but I wasn't. It just tastes. It just kind of tastes earthy and sweet, and it's not really standout to me. It is cool that it makes everything it touches purple, though. I've never had. I don't think I've ever had taro flavored stuff either. But yeah, this reminds me a lot of yuca or cassava. I think it's also called. I have limited experience with sunchoke since they're a niche product, but you can treat it like a potato if I recall correctly. That makes sense. That makes sense. We treat cassava the same way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This looks nice. I think that looks perfectly delightful. I don't know. How about you though? How do you feel about taro ube flavored stuff? I know that ube flavored stuff has become something of a hot commodity. I feel like ube just became the new matcha, if that makes any sense. Like everybody was really gaga about matcha, but then like it started becoming much more difficult to acquire it. So I think everybody switched to ube flavoring instead. Taro and ube flavored stuff are decent, but I don't know if I would pick them over something else. Yeah, I feel that way about a lot of things. Plenty of times with, say, beverages, they're using powder, so it's a bit unfair. That's also true. Okay. I need to avoid getting too many details into the Lancaster. Honestly, I did just like matcha flavored stuff in before people got super weird about it. But I also didn't really just have it as a strict preference. I feel that way about a lot of things. Generally, I'm the kind of person who, if they if faced with an array of unfamiliar flavors, they would just go for like the equivalent of vanilla in that situation. Sunchokes have a bit of sweetness to them. I'd say try it sometime if you have the chance. Will do. Okay. And then over here. Okay, how did I work with this in the original sketch? Oh, right, okay. But yeah, sunchokes sound quite delightful. I do like it whenever you can just grab the root of a plant and that's also just an edible thing. I think that's what you can do with cattails as well, right? You know, those things that look like natural corn dogs, but you can really only eat the root of them. If you try to eat the actual like flowering part of them, it's gonna end up really messy. Hmm. I will say the first time I ate artichokes, I thought I bought like a few of them from a supermarket because they looked weird and I wanted to try them, but I had no idea how to cook them. So I got a couple of them. I didn't know that the main part that people normally eat was the heart of the artichoke, so I ended up finding out how to eat the leaves because that seemed logical to me. Like if you have this big spiky looking thing that's covered with leaves, but you only eat one little part of it, that felt super weird to me. So I found out how you can eat the leaves. So I just had steamed salted artichoke leaves for a meal one time. Forgive me if I've said it before. I had a matcha crepe cake before that was a breathing hazard because it was coated in powder that you could inhale while trying to take a bite. And I was trying to eat the cake while somebody's girlfriend was being introduced to my family. That feels like some kind of fucking B plot saw trap in somebody's sitcom. Jesus, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I've never heard that story. If you want to tell me about it, I'd love to hear more details. But I feel like you've already kind of provided a very strong summary of what happened. Oh my god, that's terrible. I'm so sorry. Matcha crepe cake is a lot of good words together. Breathing hazard coated in powder is slightly less good. God, and try to do that at a family function with fairly meaningful consequences must have been hell. God, it's like those situations where somebody says you have to not laugh. So, but then for whatever reason, the funniest shit just starts happening out of nowhere. I could never work for like an evil villain organization, not because of any specific moral quandaries, but mostly because I just know that whoever was in charge would just start doing the equivalent of the settings force choke on me whenever I started like laughing a little bit. Like in that scene in Devil Wears Prada where like she laughed because the belts look identical to her. Like that would have been me, and I would have been able to escape the awkwardness more gracefully, I feel, but at the same time, like I definitely would have still laughed. And you know, the mean editor lady would have still like force choked me. Nothing too crazy, but I was like Jesus in the desert because there was a crispy lechon skin in front of me. I can't pick out and eat fresh pork skin with cake in front of her. The cake wasn't that personally appealing. That might be the worst. That might be the worst part of all. This cake nearly killed me, and the cake itself was mid. It has to be like top 10 heartbreaking stories. Top 10 anime betrayals, as somebody would have said 10 years ago. God, that truly is the worst situation, right? Where you're kind of excited about something and you finally get to experience it and it's just okay at best. Not even particularly offensive or good, just okay. Because I feel like if it's bad, I think then you can at least like live with the grudge a little bit, if that makes sense, right? Like the resentment that arises from that gives you the strength to keep going. I had bought a single serving and brought it back. Don't trust every matcha item for sale. I will bear that in mind. I technically have the day off tomorrow, but I'm probably still gonna have to clock into work for at least a little bit. It is what it is, which I'm not looking forward to, but I do think there is actually something different about working when most people have the day off, especially because tomorrow is going to be like a national holiday, right? So most people aren't working, but so I'll be able to do some devious shit to my clients and get a little bit of work in early. They're gonna wake up Tuesday morning with like some bullshit in their inbox, and it's gonna be glorious for me. Okay. Wait, how would this... Oh, okay, I see. Wait, I don't see. How would this work? Wait, now I see. Hang on. I would need to kind of rotate this like so. I don't give a fuck. I shouldn't even be working means nobody's in. I live uninterrupted sometimes. Yeah, that's kind of how it is. Like, because I'm working but my client isn't, that means I don't need to worry about them like communicating to me in the middle of the day with some bullshit. It's like secret working hours that only I have access to, and all it cost me was like the time that I'm supposed to have for myself. It's a fucked situation no matter what, so I might as well take emphasize the good while I can. The worst part is that I wasn't even that I'm probably not even going to be alone. Like, I'm guessing there's going to be like at least one or two managers who are also in my same situation and have to also clock in on Monday unhappily. So I don't even get to the office to myself. I'm just gonna need to like stew in the ambient misery of my coworkers. I feel like life would be easier for everyone if they also just didn't have to work on the weekend or on the day off. I don't know how to put it. Like, I'm not happy that they also have to work. I would have been happier if I was the only one working, not just because I do enjoy my alone time, but also just because like it also does mean that this never fucking ends. Like, there's no circumstance, there's no like part where you eventually have to stop coming in on weekends. It's just always there. And in fact, it probably just becomes more likely the higher up the chain you go. So, not exactly hashtag hopecore as a material, as like a kind of signal. How did I do with the dog's butt? Okay, it's just kind of chilling. Okay. I will say it was very nice that I will say that one good thing that happened when I went in to work on Friday, which I technically should have also had off, is that I got to say goodbye to the boss lady at the breakfast sandwich place where I always went to for the past few years. What's your broad go-to flavor when it comes to food? Or are you straight up a vanilla rice pudding? I am unfortunately very much a straight up vanilla guy. Like, generally, if there's nothing, unless there's like something that's really exciting or that catches my eye, I typically just go for the vanilla option. Or like if or sometimes I do try something on a whim and I end up really liking it, and that just kind of becomes my go-to. That also happens from time to time. I used to be a chocolate guy, I think, but I fell off of it at some point. I think once it started creating clusters of acne on my skin whenever I got so much of a taste of it, is probably when I stopped fucking heavy with chocolate, I think. Which is a tragic story. I'm sure you've heard it a million times. Yeah, unfortunately I don't have very patrician taste when it comes to food. I can make a mean stir fry though. And sometimes I'll get chocolate anyway, just because it's like chocolate and some other stuff that sounds really good together. So not all is lost. Did I actually make it 2 segment legs? No, I mean, kinda, yeah. But yeah, the boss lady at my sandwich place is leaving, and I was heartbroken. I don't know. We weren't particularly close. Yeah, the go-to breakfast sandwich to relate back to Friday. At the place that I usually go to, I almost always get the roast beef. When I was healing from my wisdom tooth extraction, I just got banana bread for a few times, but now I'm back on my bullshit with my roast beef. Although I do just enjoy a very classic English muffin breakfast sandwich with like bacon and a sausage patty. Those are also very top tier. Yeah, to clarify, roast beef sandwich. Yeah, roast beef, spinach, cheddar cheese, mayo, and mustard. That's pretty much my normal order. Yeah, they did a few different things. I should have gotten like their egg one at some point. I haven't, but I should. But I probably should try to do that at some point. But yeah, at Tim Hortons, for example, I'll just get myself like a double stacked English muffin, which is English muffin bread, sausage patty, one egg, and a thing of cheese and bacon. Which is definitely only a sometimes food. Like that's the thing. I've become a lot more conscious about like my my cholesterol intake as of recently. Nothing really triggered it, but I am kind of realizing that I'm at that age where I should start taking that shit more seriously. 26 isn't exactly old, but it's also the kind of age where you can't really be fucking around with your diet too much. Like you got to start locking in with your dietary choices at this point, I feel. Like for example, the other day I made myself like this really good ground beef stir fry, and I'm like, that was really tasty, but I can't probably shouldn't have that too often because of the ground beef and how greasy it is. I actually tried making a version of it with ground turkey today, but I'm not sure how it came out. I haven't had a chance to properly taste it. But yeah, no, the roast beef sandwiches at that place were so good that I eventually tried to replicate it at home without the spinach and just using pickled vegetables, and it did not go well. But that should tell you about like the kind of how good it was. They had me trying to open up a sandwich bar in my own apartment. I feel like if you know how like there's a lot of talk about like community action and whatnot, about how you should try to feed your neighbors pretty frequently because that's just really a morally conscious thing to do. I do feel like maybe opening up some manner of sandwich bar in an apartment complex would not be particularly difficult. I mean, honestly, I think even if you just got like a normal business license and sold them for like a fair amount of money instead of like, gentrified sandwich shop prices, you'd probably be able to do pretty well for yourself and accomplish your goals at the same time. Granted, the idea of turning it into a business kind of defeats the whole purpose of like the community kitchen idea. But I'm just throwing it out there. I feel like you should be allowed to do more. If you are a resident or a tenant of the apartment building, you should be allowed more freedom in the kind of bullshit that you pull as a business, right? I feel like this is the only possible evolution of tenants' rights, is the tenants' rights to kind of just do some things in the building and not really let the landlord have a say whether they're allowed to do it or not. Okay, grabbing this, taking that, putting this over here. I don't know, what kind of breakfast sandwiches do you get, if any, Jupiter? Yeah, just making the frame a little bit bigger, maybe pushing the door frame a little bit higher too. I usually make mine at home, but it's to be noted that I'm more of a light breakfast person. Really? I'm I'm a heavy breakfast person myself. So that is, yeah, okay. What do you usually have for breakfast then? Like what is your typical go-to breakfast routine? Usually if I have nothing else going on, I'll just make myself like a sandwich. If I'm feeling really hungry, maybe two on my George Foreman grill, just to turn them into like a sort of panini. Honestly, lately I'm opening a fruit. Sounds cool. What have you been biting with? Bananas, grapefruits? I never really got like the banana breakfast myself. Like I had to eventually I had to try out a banana breakfast because I heard that it's helpful as a low residue diet. For one time when I was like in a situation where having a bathroom break in the morning would have been like the difference between life and death. Been burying it up. Nice. Okay, I think I see the vision now. Or maybe I don't. Hang on. Any berries in particular that you've become like a huge fan of? You can never do me wrong with a good blueberry, in my opinion. Strawberries are nice, but yeah, blueberries are great too. Mmm. I need to start getting like frozen berry mixes again. Now that my wisdom teeth extraction site is finally healed, I need to start getting back into like crunch maxing, because I had this breakfast oatmeal square thing that I used to do that was really good, but I had to stop doing it for obvious reasons. So I would be excited to get back into that again with some mixed berries. Have you had dried goji berries? I've had them. They're pretty good. I don't have them normally though, because I just don't have them on hand. There aren't enough food situations where I could like justify the cost of having them around. That reminds me, I should probably do something with call it the bonito shavings that I have in a bag in my apartment. Those will probably go bad at some point. I don't know. Would this be funnier if it was like standing fully straight? I think having it be hunched over looks a little bit freakier. My breakfast sandwich tends to be bagel, scrambled eggs, sausage, and hash brown. That is a delightful order. More of a bacon over sausage person overall. I do feel like bagel, scrambled eggs, sausage, and hash brown, maybe with a little bit of guacamole or avocado in there, would be top tier. I feel like if I had a place near me that did like good banh mi for a breakfast sandwich, it would just be instantly over for me. I would just not be able to get anything else. Like, I feel like banh mi as a breakfast sandwich would be ideal. Now, granted, I'm not in the kind of position where I would like refuse a banh mi under any circumstance, right? I do understand that about myself, but at the same time, I do feel like banh mi breakfast sandwich would be peak. Light enough that you don't really need to worry about like how heavy it's gonna sit in your stomach the rest of the day, but also like filling enough that it would like carry you to lunch and possibly beyond. I've realized recently that I think my top bagel is sesame because it's so flexible, but I think toasted seeds still impact. Oh, it's a nice flavor. Honestly, I might just. I've come to the realization that unless there's like something that has like seeds in it rather than like sprinkled on top, I might just be a plain bagel guy. Typically, my order though, like I don't usually get bagel sandwiches. I get bagel. My usual order when I pick stuff up at Tim Hortons is that I get like a cinnamon raisin bagel with cream cheese, and that works great for me. But it's not really a sandwich. Yeah, vanilla rice. I'm very predictable and somewhat boring, but my life has its joys. I think it creates more of an impact since I'm a very vanilla person. It creates more of an impact when I experience something outside of that vanilla sphere, so to speak. Okay, and that's just gonna kind of come in like this. There's a sun-dried tomato bagel from somewhere that isn't very bagel-y texture-wise, but it makes for a great breakfast sandwich spread. I could believe that. I feel like I've been sleeping on sun-dried tomatoes. I feel like I haven't fully appreciated what they can do as a food condiment. Because the great thing about tomatoes, it's too light to be a proper bagel. Ooh. Some kind of fucked up bread, some kind of fucked up bread gluten object, huh? I could rock with that though. I don't know. I feel like having something that's not fully one thing but also another isn't something that I'm particularly worried about. Like, I feel like there are people who are super strict about like, oh yeah, no, this is technically a sandwich, this is technically not a sandwich. And I think that can get in the way of like their flavor enjoyment of the flavor. Like they get too caught up in like the dialectics of the bread to really appreciate its actual end product. But I think it's good for breakfast to be like, I think it's good for meals to have some kind of bizarre fusion element in them. I feel like it's good when the things you eat normally have somebody else go, "What the fuck are you talking about? Who does that with your food?" At least once or twice a year. No, actually, this will kind of go in like this. But yeah, like sun-dried tomato in bread specifically would be pretty nice. A little bit of a hit of that glutamic acid in your meal, very much appreciated. Also, I think I can. Yeah. I think we can start coloring this puppy. Flashbang. Okay, let's try this. Okay, and we're gonna make the sky kind of grayish. Maybe a little less grayish than that, though. Hang on, select color gamut, this one here. Let's just bump up the luminosity on this a little bit. Oh yeah, I accidentally left some of the old legs floating around up there. Let's just do this. Let's see. I've been asked a decent amount recently, ooh, where'd you get that? Which makes me remember a terribly organized food festival I was at where somebody asked me where I got the mac and cheese from, then asked if it was good, and when I went, no. That's fair, though. Like, you need to... I do feel like food that looks good but doesn't actually taste good does need to be kind of almost sort of discriminated against. You need to be able to shamelessly tell people, yeah, no, this actually kind of sucks. Don't get it. God, I remember that I went to like a barbecue festival that happened in my city one time, and half the time it was like, oh yeah, this brisket that costs $15 is pretty good. I don't think it's $15 good, but it's pretty good. And then the other half was like, hearing the like a vegetarian or like PETA unit somewhere out on the outskirts of the festival yelling at everybody to be ashamed. It was a very fascinating kind of dynamic. Dry mac plus, while I can't recall the flavor well, some vegan foods, it was vegan mac and had too much of a coconut flavor. For mac and cheese to have coconut flavor, you have fucked up something very badly, I feel. Like, already the idea of vegan mac and cheese is kind of like difficult to kind of contend with, just because of the fact that half of the ingredients in macaroni and in good mac and cheese are non-vegan to some extent. But the fact that you had to throw in coconut, very likely coconut oil, I'm guessing, into the mix to kind of make some of the consistency and parts of the mac and cheese work feels particularly bad. Also, I'm going to need to rip off the little front dangly arms here. Alas. Vegan French onion mac. Goodbye, Sweet Prince. It is a shame. I do think it is a sort of tragedy in a community when like a good place shuts down, or like if its business gets cannibalized by a different site. Like there used to be a pretty good pizza place that I used to frequent, but then it closed briefly because it needed to relocate because the neighborhood where it was hanging out at was being torn down for a rebuilding process. Never actually managed to get back in touch with the place after it reopened. So I'm very sad about that. The pizza was good, but like my favorite part about it was this sort of snack that they used to make of this like it was like this little bit of fried dough that they used to put cinnamon and sugar on. Very good, very tasty. Sadly now probably lost to the sands of time. I should see if I could order online from them. Maybe that's the avenue I should take. The place is still around and it's popular. It's just not on the menu anymore. Aww. Which, dog bless. I did mention in an email to them, which was about something else that was missed. You know what? That's probably the most action you can take on a personal level. I respect that. I don't know what it says about me that I think that Tokugawa pilots make for the best, like, arrogant people to get smacked down in a comic for Lancer. I don't know why. I think it is just because the frame encourages, like, a very kind of daredevil approach to piloting. That it just makes it very easy for me to be like, yeah, no, these would definitely be guys that are clowned on in universe. Coconut milk pop-ups frequently in vegan stuff, as is cashews, which imparts a creaminess that emulates some animal products well. Interesting. That reminds me of this one person that I read about who baked an entire apple pie from apples. Like every ingredient in the pie was either derived from apples or had apples in some kind of consistency. And like whenever they ran into a problem, they just threw more apples at it and it worked. Nutritional yeast for cheesy flavor? Oh. Don't know if I can get behind that, but if it works, I guess. Nutritional yeast. Isn't that like what Vegemite is? The name is like Atomic Shrimp or something. Of the shop? Or of something else? Atomic Shrimp is a good name for a shop, though. In all fairness. The apple pie YouTuber. Ah, that's the person. Okay, that's what you meant. Atomic Shrimp is a good name. Is also a good name for a YouTuber, if I'm being real. But yeah, they just kept throwing apples to solve the product, and it kept working, which is fascinating to me as some kind of design ethos. I remember I tried to do something similar one time to make apple fritters with chickpea flour, and let me tell you, that shit did not work at all. I should have quit while I was ahead, for real. I had a math teacher who swore by a Ritz cracker pie that it allegedly tasted enough like apples to trick people. 0 apples in it, presumably a Great Depression recipe. Presumably so. That's really scary, though. I don't know. I feel like chemistry is technically derived from the natural science of alchemy. But I do think that baking is probably the closest that we have to like actual literal alchemy in some cases. Like I feel like if some of the philosophers saw that the work that was being done on some the Great Depression era recipes for to avoid using anything that was being too harshly rationed or that cost too much, I think they would have shit themselves for real. Okay, I think next up I just need to use the hang on. Boop, boop. I need to thin out my G pen a little bit, so maybe like 8. What was the sound effect that I originally envisioned for this? Hang on. Ah, yeah, shunk. To follow up on your question, Vegemite is a yeast product, but nutritional yeast is sold as a yellowish powder that can be consumed straight if desired. I'm not sure why you would desire that, but that makes it not Vegemite, so I guess that's so do you. You can sprinkle nooch on things like powdered parm. Not a fan of nooch as a term for this. I'm not in love with the word nooch. I don't know what it is about it. But the phrase "you can sprinkle nooch on things like powdered parm" is nooch. It's just really bad as an operative to me. Nooch feels like something that a science fiction that you could like get at a science fiction alien bar, and it would kill you if you ate too much of it. Nooch sounds like alien Hanshi-san powder. To clarify, I don't think anyone is eating straight spoonfuls of nutritional yeast, but you don't need to hydrate it or cook it. Yeah, that's what I figured was the case, because theoretically you could also eat mustard straight, but nobody's doing that as far as I'm aware. I should maybe move this a little bit further out like this. Actually, maybe what I should also do is... Hang on. Where's my marker pen? Maybe I should make the little lightsaber thing go limp a little bit. I think that would be a good indicator of, oh, this thing is disturbed. Okay. Adjective censored lightsaber is crazy work. Listen, if Spaceballs can do the joke, so can I. At least I think that was a joke in Spaceballs. Surely, like it must have been, right? No, yeah, total. They really took the wind out of the sails with the lightsaber. Well, they do say that if your lightsaber is on for more than 3 hours at a time, you should consult a medical professional. Let me also work the text here a little bit. So maybe instead of 9.3, we just make it 8.7, 8.9. Same here. Okay. Speech bubble pen. Okay, and then the other one was here. Nope, let's try that again. Why are you like this? Actually, wait. I made that. I turned that into like a Viagra slash dick joke slash priapism joke. But is there like a hard and fast rule about like how long a lightsaber should be on, and like whether it's problematic for it to be on for more than a certain length of time? Like theoretically, obviously, I don't think that you should. Like, there's no reason to do it unless you needed an infinite energy source for whatever reason. But like, is it bad to like just keep your lightsaber on for extended periods of time? Like, is there a canon reason why nobody just like has a permanently on lightsaber for clowning purposes? Like, what? Hang on, I'm gonna have to look this up in a second. I gotta finish situating the speech bubble real quick. Okay, so maybe instead of 9.3, we make this a nice round 9.5. Why does it keep moving the text? What? Stop doing that. Gonna maybe increase the thickness on the... There we go. And also that would mean I would have to go back and rework this. Also, wait, before I do that, I should probably look at the lightsaber thing before I get distracted. Hang on. Lightsaber, infinite energy. Here we go. Power drain or eternal flame? This is where we get into the real meat of the topic. Okay. Well, you've probably heard of the terms kyber crystal or diatom power cell. You probably have no clue what they mean, right? Okay. Lightsabers are energized by the use of a kyber crystal. They help focus the output of energy and make the trademark illustrious glow. Yep. Kyber crystal doesn't do all the work, though. To turn on the lightsaber, you must have a diadium power cell underneath the crystal. It acts as a battery of sorts, storing and recycling energy for the lightsaber to run on. Okay, lightsabers don't have infinite energy, but almost. Yep, okay. The convenient factor of the power cells is that they run out of energy very slowly. It's like leaving your car running without driving it. A lightsaber won't expend any energy until it comes into contact with a solid object. When it does hit something, it exchanges an almost equal amount of energy with the source of impact. Ah, okay. The lightsaber can charge itself. It does lose tiny traces of power with each exchange. They can eventually run out of power and need recharging. Okay. Battery life of a normal lightsaber can range anywhere from 50 to 100 years. This is dependent upon the user and if it was assembled correctly. Okay. 0.005 seconds of Earth's entire power supply. Okay, that sounds like a lot. Okay, interesting. So, kind of, but yes and no. Well, that answers that question. I don't think that was a particularly important query, but I'm glad that somebody else thought of it. Oh yeah, I also needed to add the lightsaber in the second picture. Second and third, technically, but it's one drawing, so. Okay. This is gonna go like this, and I think we're done. Also, what I could do as well, hang on. I'm having like a big brain moment here. Is okay, merge visible to new layer, yes. But also maybe just like hitting it with a liquefy tool a little bit. Just to make it look a little bit scraggly. And maybe what I can also do is, hang on, very loosely use this and also, yeah, I can copy and paste the line art of the robot and then also use simplify vector line and also, yeah, just 1 pip of simplify should be sufficient for our purposes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invert the colors of this. And I'm just going to make it like extra squiggly looking. Sort of like less than that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think this is a finalized comic. I don't really have much else to add. But this is a good bit of work, I think. Anything that involves making mechs that has a finished end product by the end of the stream, I think is a commendable achievement. All right. Uh, yeah, I think we're gonna end things here for today. Is V streaming Romeo's a Dead Man yet? I think she is. Yeah, no, let's just go say hi to V. All right, everybody, take care. Yeah, eat your vegetables, take it easy, and enjoy your evening. Have a good week. Talk to you later. Bye.